Okay, what's up, guys? Wraithrome TV. So this is going to be a quick review for me, a little solo review because of what's going on with my internet. On Thursday or Friday, you'll get Smooth Pana's opinion on Wednesday night Dynamite / Collision. Because of my internet, we're doing a quick review. Sometimes I'm going to have to do solo reviews because of certain things that come up, or sometimes Pana may not be able to do it. So for the sake of tonight, because of my internet, I won't be back up until 8 a.m. tomorrow Pacific Standard Time because they're upgrading the infrastructure. They're giving us more upload and more download speeds, which is cool for the same price I'm paying. So thank you, Spectrum, for that. So anyway, AEW Dynamite / Collision for May 27, 2026. Look, get your favorite beverage, get what you need, come enjoy the mother freaking show. I'm going to be real with you guys. Look, I think AEW is trying way too hard. I think they are thinking they're number one in everything right now. And I think Tony Khan is trying way too hard. Tonight just showed that they're just trying way too hard to be the alternative to WWE. And they keep saying that they're not trying to be the alternative. They're just trying to be them. And it's like, you're trying too hard to be number one. Just be AEW, what got you to the dance. You don't need to finesse and do all this hard stuff. You know what I mean? Especially the Ricochet and Chris Jericho stuff. I was like, I'm glad it's over with. Chris Jericho won, and Ricochet lost twice. They're kind of paying him back for what he's been doing lately on Twitter and all this stuff. So I get why they had him lose twice. And then they set up Ciampa and Jericho. Cool. I'm cool with that. I'm fine with that. You know what I mean? The dogs, the same with the dogs and Christian and Adam Copeland. I'm cool with that. You know what I mean? I just feel in certain moments that AEW adds things to try way too hard, like the unsanctioned match. Like, it did not live up to my expectations. I thought Jungle Boy and Mark Davis did a very good job tonight. I feel Swerve cutting a promo was great. Kevin Knight stuff, I just feel like, why do we have to make Kevin Knight a heel? It makes no sense. Speedball and him going at each other. They're kind of that could be a pay-per-view match. Why are they doing it on TV? I just feel like they're kind of rushing and trying way too much. We got Redemption coming up. We got Forbidden Door. They could have done it there. There's just so much they could do with Kevin Knight. And I just feel turning him heel wasn't the right decision. That's just my personal opinion. I didn't get it at Double or Nothing. And I get why Tony Khan's trying to do way too much and go way too hard in the paint. I feel like he's overkilling what he's trying to do. Maybe that changes. Maybe my opinion changes when we get into Thursday and Friday and Saturday of this week. I think he's doing great things with Ring of Honor, but I just feel like AEW tonight, and Collision, I just felt that Tony Khan is trying way too hard. And if you're going to do 3-hour shows, why do you have to add Collision to Dynamite? Just make Dynamite 3 hours and just call it Dynamite. Then they went to, it's going to be coast-to-coast Collision on Saturday. So to me, it's just like a little bit awkward, a little bit out of order. I'm not saying everything AEW is doing is bad. Most of it's positive for me. I just felt like, Double or Nothing at the end, they were doing way too much. And it wasn't just me saying that. There was a lot of people going, they kind of did a little bit too much. They already had the perfect pay-per-view. They didn't need to overdo it. And I feel like they overdo it sometimes. And I feel I have to be honest about this because you have a lot of fake people that'll say, this is the greatest show ever. You have these new channels that are growing like popsicle stands, like Fran the Heel, that will sit here and say that the show is so great. But again, it's like, I feel sometimes Tony Khan gets in his own little way and he does too much. I just feel like sometimes they do too much. Like, for instance, Redemption's probably going to be their Royal Rumble, basically. That leads into their big pay-per-view All In, right? And then All Out. And then, you know what I mean? I feel like Tony Khan knows what he's doing at times, but I just feel lately like he's just doing too much. You guys are already winning. Your numbers are going up. You don't need to do way too much. And I think you're listening to the wrong crowd of people that are saying you need to do this. Just keep to what you're doing. As AEW, just keep what you're doing. You don't need to go the extra mile. people are already tuning away from WWE because they've had enough of the ticket prices, the tag team division, their favorites becoming free agents. You've already won. You don't need any more. You don't need a double dip, triple dip here. Fans have already said that you're the A product right now. You don't need to do more than what you're doing. But you keep trying to do more than it meets the eye. You know what I mean? I like the fact that they brought in Roosh. Roosh is now a main eventer. I like that. I like the fact that Mark Briscoe kind of just got told to F off. To F off. So there you go. Kevin Knight explains his double or nothing actions. Like, again, Kevin Knight makes no sense to being a heel to me. And then also, too, let's keep it for real here as well. He's now fighting Speedball, where that could be a pay-per-view match. You know what I mean? That should be more suitable. If you're going to do a blood feud like that, it shouldn't be on TV. I like Kevin Knight, but I just you already got Swerve. You don't need to have more of that pie there. Swerve is your ultimate heel. You have MJF that's a heel. You don't need Kevin Knight being a heel. And then after the fact, Kevin Knight and, I just felt like he buried Kevin Knight personally, and Kevin Knight looked like he just went down a couple in the totem pole. It just made his TNT belt look weak. And then he turned around to Kyle Fletcher, and Kyle Fletcher's like, thanks for keeping my title warm. It just makes, to me, it's like, why did you make him heel to begin with if you're going this way? You know what I mean? And then you're going that way with him. I just feel like they don't know what to do with him. He should have just stayed face instead of turning heel. You know what I mean? As they go over Will Ospreay, Swerve Strickland advancing in the Owen, I appreciate what they're doing with that. I think the Owens is going to be great. It's going to come down to Will Ospreay and Swerve. I really do believe this at this point. Or they may give you the shocker and they may go Brody King, and then that will set up Swerve and Bandito for the title, and then they have Swerve go over and lead Ring of Honor as their champion. Again, I'm cool with that. Swerve kind of plays that Chris Jericho role when he was the Ocho, so I get that. Again, Speedball comes out. He gets laid out. I'm trying to find things with Kevin Knight that I can enjoy with his heel run so far. I know this is entry level, and I know somebody's going to tell me I'm just being too critical as a wrestling fan, but I have to be honest, I don't care for it. Maybe I'm seeing it differently. Maybe somebody in the comment section can tell me what I'm not seeing with this, but I'm just not vibing with it. Chris Jericho and Ricochet, everyone's banned from ringside. I didn't care for this. You see, the thing is, there's this AEW tries too hard. They're trying to push this narrative. And I like the fact that they brought out Ciampa to start up the next feud for Chris Jericho. But I don't want to see Chris Jericho putting over Ciampa twice and then they do the same thing again. I don't want to see Chris Jericho in his own vortex like they did in WWE. Remember when he was doing the list and then eventually he was in a vortex and it got really, really stale? I don't want to see that here in AEW. Chris Jericho, I love the character that he plays. I think the comedic character is great. But I want him to kind of mold into what I know of Chris Jericho. You know what I mean? I don't want him to keep just putting over talent, because then that gets old over time. I want to see Chris Jericho be Chris Jericho, Painmaker Chris Jericho. He signed a big deal. I want him to be a big deal. And they also went over Darby Allin when what's his name came out, MJF and his celebration and all this different stuff. Look, I love MJF, but then they bring out Mark Briscoe and they make him look stupid. Like, they make Mark Briscoe look stupid, and then MJF, and then you have Blanco come out, Roosh. I like Roosh doing the bull with the horns. I think he's a main eventer. I think Andrade's a main eventer. I think they've really kind of just really made characters that you wouldn't think great, that were like mid-carders, now great. And I want to see more of it, because it's now getting, MJF needs opponents, so you're giving him Roosh next week. I think Kevin Knight will possibly, maybe he'll be for the Continental. Who knows? But then you have Mark Briscoe up there, but Mark Briscoe they made look stupid. And even Mark Briscoe in that segment was like, what the hell am I doing? Um Again, Chris Jericho won. They had a four-way. I didn't understand this in a Superstation showcase four-way. I didn't understand this. Like, why are we doing these? You need to make these matches meaningful for something. You have a national title. Again, you're putting top-tier people here. You give Roosh the win, making Roosh strong, but you need to have it for a title. You need to have it for something. Roosh needs a title on him. Cage needs a title on him. Lio Rush, I was really shocked that Lio Rush has been your big top merch guy. He's been getting the views. I'm surprised that Lio Rush is not getting thrown a bone here. This is some things with Tony Khan I didn't understand. Like, Lio Rush is your guy. You should be pushing him. Again, and I was very shocked Orange Cassidy, too. Like, I'm shocked. Orange Cassidy's kind of going down in the card levels here when he once was a guy that I considered to be a world heavyweight champion. Again, I appreciate Roosh being here. Also, too, with Mark Davis, they did say Doyle is back. So I'm happy to see those tag teams back together. Hopefully they do something with Andrade. Maybe they win the Trios Championship or maybe something of the range when Mark Davis is done with his national title run. Maybe they do something there. Video package for Mark Briscoe was shown. Again, the conglomeration stuff is good. Now, Kadeshita looks to be like he's part of the conglomeration, which I'm cool. I'm cool with this. Maybe they make him the centerpiece of it, of the conglomeration. You know what I mean? They replace Ishii or something like that. I think they need to pair him up with something because his English was half decent. I do like Kadeshita in this point. Kaneshige Okeshita, I'm pretty cool with it. Him and Kyle Fletcher going at each other, I'm cool with this. They are setting up the feud well. I'm not disappointed with it at all. But where are they going to do it? Redemption, Forbidden Door. It just is weird. They added a new pay-per-view, and it just makes a little no sense to me how they're going to set that up. But I get it. It's going to be like their Royal Rumble. I get how they're going to set that up going into All In. You know what I mean? So Redemption looks cool. Like I said, I'm a big AEW fan. I criticize AEW as much as I do WWE because I just feel like, look, WWE's trying so hard to nickel and dime the fan and keep regurgitating, and now they're damage controlling. They're trying so hard to get the fan back because they've all now tuning into AEW. Their numbers are going up. Things are going up for AEW. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, like I said before, kudos to AEW. They've turned themselves around to be a really good, viable product where WWE's kind of going downhill a little bit. And they're losing talent from injuries. Suruka just got hurt. Logan Paul's going to be out for months. And, here's the thing. I see wrestling fans all day long shitting on AEW because of the names. So who's going to know Will Ospreay? A lot of people know who Will Ospreay is. For shit's sakes, Triple H wanted to sign Will Ospreay. Look at FTR. They're looking at signing them. And you got AEW fans crying. You got groups like Wrestling Corner that I have no squirms with, but that person's crying. And I got a whole video on the whole FTR thing coming up because it's like, why are people so sensitive to things? You know what I mean? MJF's world title celebration got interrupted. That, look, again, I'm not shocked by this. Mark Briscoe comes out, interrupts it. MJF looked like $1 million, came out as the king. They did a whole thing. I appreciate that. Renise Burkett did a Brawling Birds situation. They're going to be fighting for titles. That's what they want to do. Jamie Hayter said she was so close, but it didn't matter. They want to go after the tag team belts and show their dominance. So I'm happy with that. Alex Windsor basically said whoever it is, it looks like Monet is teasing. We may get a Monet sighting. I may be right in that situation. Who knows? Again, MJF left up the aisles, but Roosh walks out behind him and answers his question from his last match and basically said that he's got the balls to take out MJF. MJF basically in Spanish basically said some stuff, and it sets up for the match for next week. Brody King and Claudio Castagnoli, it was an okay match. I wasn't vibing with it, but I went to Brody King anyway, setting up for Swerve and Brody King too. which is great. They're telling you stories within the Owen, which is great. I'm happy with it. There were some moves. Claudio's great. I just feel like Claudio's kind of gone downhill. I felt that he was up here winning titles, and now he's kind of fall down the card. They need to push him back up there. And yes, he was CMLL champion and all that, but I just feel like they need to bring him up and rise him up a little bit again. I feel like he's kind of slipping. Cope and Cage had their 5 seconds of AEW tag team praise, was crashed by the Dogs. The Dogs did the 5-second pose, and that was that. No Beth Phoenix. So is Beth Phoenix just a special attraction in AEW, and that's it? We get her here and there, and that's that, right? I'm assuming. Ty J, Ty Mello, and Anna J versus Anna Everett and Ellie Ketch. End of the day, this was a squash match. They put 2 people there. They squashed them so fast. And now they're saying we're coming for the titles. And Dominion did their little thing at the end of it. And that was that. AEW National Champion Mark Davis with Don Callis versus Jungle Jack Perry in the Men's Owens Foundation. Jack Perry did lose this to a pile driver, a spinning pile driver, which was nice by Mark Davis. Mark Davis is coming on his own. Now you have Doyle back. Sky's the limit with the Don Callis family. I think Don Callis faction as itself is growing and it's making moves. So there you go. Mark Davis moves on. It's gonna be Mark Davis versus Will Ospreay in the next round, which is great. Fletcher walks out with Rocky Romero and told Don Callis to give him some sugar before they hugged. And now they talked about the elephant in the room. And then basically they went on about Kadeshita, and Kadeshita comes out with a conglomeration. They both look back and forth. Look, good segment. I'm not saying everything that AEW does is bad tonight. I just felt the vibe of trying too hard. AEW needs to stop trying so hard. Tony Khan doesn't need to do all this, that, and the third for their shows. They don't need to do 4-hour, 5-hour shows. They could have a 3-hour Dynamite. Just call it Dynamite special 3-hour episode. They don't need to put Collision behind it. Just do a special episode of Dynamite. If you're going to go 3 hours, say 3 hours. You don't need to do 2 shows. You don't need to try so hard. Will Ospreay and the Death Riders versus the Rascals. They lost here. It was very apparent. It was a predictable match. You already knew. There were some moves here that I liked, some moves I didn't. Then we had El Idolo versus Ace Austin. El Idolo defeats Ace Austin. They're trying to build. This is one thing about El Idolo that I like. They're building him up where WWE really didn't. WWE didn't really push Andrade that much. They made Andrade look stupid in WWE. Triple H's booking did, and his team. So I will say AEW is doing the better job with Andrade in itself. Ace Austin too. Ace Austin's another one that kind of loses here and there and then wins a few. I think it's time for Ace Austin to win that TNT championship. I think he would be somebody that could take a belt off of Kevin Knight. I do believe this at this point. Or El Idolo. El Idolo, I know he's going after the heavyweight title. I know that's what he wants. But he could win that TNT belt, and I wouldn't be mad. Then we get to the lights out match in Philadelphia street fight. I'm getting tired every time these companies are in Philadelphia. We have to have a street fight. We have to have a Christmas street fight or Thanksgiving street fight. Like, why? Why can't we have like a last standing match? Or why couldn't we have an Iron Man match? I'd be okay with those things, but it's always a unsanctioned match, and then they try to do way too much. And I felt this match was really kind of a stinker. I like Sheeta. I like Chris Statlander. But this wasn't it for me, Chief. And it went on too long. And I felt the scratching and the clawing in the back. You know, it's just, to me, as a fan, pay-per-view for this stuff. You don't need to do it on TV all the time to get over. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to be mean. Look. Sheeta's great stuff. Chris Statlander needed a win. Chris Statlander should be your new TBS champion when it's all said and done, if that's the way they're going to go. I think Sheeta and Chris Statlander's feud is far from done. I think they're going to run this back again and again and again. And they're going to just, eat, sleep, breathe, and repeat. And I'm okay with that. Collision Coast to Coast is happening on Saturday. And then this is another thing. Why are we doing back-to-back collisions in a week? If you're doing collision as a 1 hour, then don't do collision on Saturday. This is this over trying to do way too much shit. Look, I think collision should go to Thursdays. That's my opinion. Go to Thursdays, back Ring of Honor on Fridays. I think you would be perfect there. I know they don't want to compete with the NFL, but Tony Khan on Saturdays, I just feel like they were doing really good things on a Thursday with collision. Thursday night collision would be perfect. And then I get people that tell me, oh, well, why don't they just have their other wrestlers ready to go? This is where a brand split should be a thing, personally, for AEW, and build up stars for certain shows. This is where I like Ring of Honor for, because they are building Leo Rush. They are building the Rascals. They are building the Infantry. They are building Red Velvet. They are building more and more Athena. And the thing is, Athena could lose the belt, and I'd be okay with that, and she could do a million things in on the main roster of AEW. Like, Athena should be on the main roster at this point. She should be doing main roster things at this point. Now, I want to say this, and I've been seeing this a lot, and including the person I've been going after a lot. Before I'll wrap this quick video up real quick. I know it's been 20 minutes. Guys, stop believing these fake wrestling people, man. All they're doing is fantasy booking and giving their opinion, and you're taking it as it's news, it's gospel. Stop it. Just stop it. I'm here giving real passion, real reviews, and real things with my co-host. Okay? I am so sick and tired of watching these channels just grow like popsicle stands and say they just watched AEW, or better at, they're an AEW fan, but if you really go and watch, they've been watching AEW for 2 years. They're fooling you. They're lying to you. Stop this madness of watching these channels and praising them. I see a lot of you praising Fran the heel. She's sus. I see you guys praising Wrestling Corner and things like that. When they're taking these fanboy takes, they're crying over FTR. They're crying over Enzo and Big Bill. Give me a fucking break. Stop. Look, I'm tired of these crybaby channels. I'm tired of the fake channels. I'm just tired of it all. Like, here I am giving you a real opinion. This show wasn't that great. There were some things that were good, and there were some things that were just bad. And I just feel like AEW is trying way too hard. They're trying way too hard in certain aspects. And I know they have the fans right now. They do. They have that lapsed WWE fan that's sick and tired of it over. And their views are showing it. But at the end of the day, they don't need to keep trying so hard. Just be you, AEW. Tony Khan, just be you. You say you don't want to take shots, but you take shots. You say you don't want to be 3-hour shows. You want to be the alternative, then don't try so hard. That's my thing tonight with AEW. I'm not upset at them. I'm not mad at them. I just think personally, if it's me, if you're going to do a 3-hour show, you don't need to go, oh, well, there's an extra hour of collision, like Sunday Night Heat. You don't need to do that. Just do, say, a 3-hour special of Dynamite, call it a day. And then we're going coast to coast with 3 hours of collision on Saturday. You don't need to try so hard. And collision should be on Thursdays. And I'm happy to see, like, Ty Mello getting pushed. I'm glad that Monet is possibly coming back. They need to bring back Monet. It makes sense. Then you can run back a Persephone and Monet. You can run back a Athena and a Monet. You can run back these feuds and stories and continue them, and it could turn into Monet on Ring of Honor fighting for the title. Monet could be holding a title. Swerve can be holding a title. I'm okay with that. And then you can have these guys run it for a while, and then, if you want to have Athena win the belt back in Ring of Honor, and that's how you feel, then you could do that after she has a run with the women's title. I really do have either Persephone or Athena winning it all. And Athena should relinquish the ROH title, let them have a tournament, let them build what they need to build, and let's fucking go. That's how I felt about Athena. That's how I feel about Ring of Honor. That's how I feel about these products. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to be that AEW, everything's great in Mayberry because I switched over from WWE to AEW. I've been watching AEW since the inception. There was a lot of down years. They're finally going up. They're trending up. There's a lot of fake news going around about AEW. There's a lot of fake channels out there that are jumping on the hype train just to jump on the hype train. You have a lot of these, um, you know, reactionary channels that are finally stepping up and now making long form content, slop content. It's just all fucked up in the IWC, YWC. And then, you know, you got people like me that are small and that are trying so hard. Me and Smooth are trying so hard to get our names out there, our voices out there. And I'm getting recognition and I'm blessed for that. I'm honest. But at the end of the day, like, I'm just venting right now in my own video because I'm so sick and tired of seeing the bullshit on the internet. And these wild takes from these YouTubers that don't know long-term booking or don't know stories for shit's sake, like Coachman, like fucking JD from New York. And they want to spread their own fucking narratives. It's ridiculous. Anyway, my name is Wraith Realm TV. I have a mouth. I have an opinion. I have a lot to say. I hope you like this video. And by the way, Divine Divinian looks sexy as fuck tonight. I am a big fan of Megan Bain. I'm a big fan of Tekla. No Tekla here. Unfortunately, Tekla didn't talk about her next opponent. Maybe we get that on Collision. I don't know. But anyway, at the end of the day, make sure to rate, like, and subscribe. Make sure to like All Pro Wrestling. You will get Smooth's opinion on our next review, in our next live. So anyway, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.